Hello and welcome to my channel. So if obviously you're new viewers and you don't obviously know what basically my channel is about, I've explained that I'm going to be speaking about narcissistic abuse, recovering from narcissistic abuse, mental health, relationships. In one of the videos I did actually speak about obviously my own personal experience of a relationship like that, because I want people out there to obviously, when they're listening to my videos, understand that, I'm not just someone that's sitting here talking about things and not actually knowing the background of it. I am someone that's actually been through this stuff myself, and that's why I'm doing this, because I want to help people. I want people to obviously know and sort of have an understanding or a bit of a helpful thing if they feel like getting into a situation like that. And I also just want people out there to know that when they've left it, they're not the only ones that are experiencing the feelings that they're experiencing and everything that comes with it. In a previous video I made, the last video I made was trauma bonding, because I feel like that's such an important aspect to know and get grasps of when it comes to leaving a narcissist and just dealing with a narcissist in general. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that when you break free from someone that's like that, it's not just any normal breakup where you sit there and be like, do you know what, I don't feel this way anymore and I don't think this is working and it's done. No. You've then got to deal with the fact of a lot of abusers threaten to kill themselves if you leave. They threaten to harm themselves, they threaten to harm you, they threaten to harm your family. And because of the trauma bond, because they've gaslighted you and manipulated you so much into thinking that they are the only support system you need, that, they are the ones in the right, you're in the wrong, and you're basically nothing without them. It's so hard to finally obviously work up the courage to leave somebody like that, because you become so dependent on them. And you just obviously, because of the person that you are, you're so loving or so natured, you just want to be loved. You want to believe that every single time things go wrong that they're going to change, because that's their favorite words. I'm going to change, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But it never happens. Yes, it can happen sometimes for all of about a few days, and then that's when you start to think, okay, this time it's different. But that's what they do. They do that on purpose to draw you back into where they need you to be, and then it happens all over again. But yeah, so for this video, I want to talk about how to heal from narcissistic abuse, because it's so hard, and it's important that obviously people out there know what to do and what to look for. So for me personally, I feel like the first stage, or one of the first stages, is acknowledgement. So what you need to do is, in order to heal, you've got to acknowledge the fact that what you went through wasn't normal, and you've got to accept the fact and acknowledge that what you went through was abuse. Obviously no one wants to sit there and be like, yeah, I went through that. No, you want to just shut your brain off from that and kind of push that all away and think, if I don't think about it, then it's not actually happening. But you're not going to heal in the way that you need to heal if you don't accept the situation for what it is. But you also need to acknowledge that what you went through wasn't your fault. That for me is something I still find really hard to come to terms with, and I'll happily admit that 6 years down the line, and I still blame myself for that, and I think I probably will at certain points in my life always blame myself. And the reason for that is because just before I got with him, or when I just got with him, basically, I had ex-girlfriends of his warning me about him. I had people from my college course at the time warning me about him, that they heard stories about what he was really like. But because he already portrayed himself to be this amazing, great guy to me, and, I'd seen things from him that I hadn't seen from other people that I'd been in relationships with for ages, or just I wasn't used to, because I was so young as well. I didn't want to believe it. And, because he was sitting there telling me that his ex-girlfriends were this, his ex-girlfriends were that, and they're psychos, was the words he used. And he like filled my head with all this stuff. I just didn't believe it, and I was just sort of like, no, like, you're just lying. You're just lying because you don't want to see him happy. Obviously now I can actually see that, for him, for what he is. And this is why, like, it's really hard for me to acknowledge the fact that it wasn't my fault, because I feel like it was at certain points. Because I feel like if I'd just listened to people at the start, I could have saved myself a whole year of trauma, basically. But it's not. It was not my fault, and it's not your fault, because at the end of the day, people like us, we just want to be loved, and we just want to believe that, who we're with are good people. So, yeah, basically, you've got to acknowledge the fact that what you went through is abuse, and you need to acknowledge that it was not your fault. And, you've got to sit with all the emotions that you feel when it comes through that. You're going to start feeling angry with yourself. You're going to start feeling angry at him or her. You're going to start feeling angry and upset at the whole world. But you have to let yourself sit through that. You have to let yourself feel every emotion. Like, don't hold back. If you need to cry, let it out. If you need to, obviously I'm not going to sit here and recommend punching walls and things like that, but if you just need to let off some steam, maybe start boxing or something, on like a weekend, or go to a rage room and just let it all out, because that is like the first stages of healing from like situations like this. You've also got to, so the second stage is setting boundaries for yourself. So, once you've come to terms with the fact that your relationship was unhealthy, you're then ready to take the next step of how to, like, recover from what you went through, basically. And one of the first steps of that is setting boundaries. This could be, like, setting boundaries for yourself, or this could be, if you're in a new relationship now, setting boundaries with your new partner. But going back to, like, obviously setting boundaries with the abuser themselves, I would say that the key part of that is to start with no contact. So cutting, obviously, when you're out of the relationship, cutting the abuser off completely. I know that that's really hard to do, because, in all of the 5, 10, 100 times that I broke up with this boy, I just caught myself constantly wanting to speak to him again. But that's because they make you become so dependent on them that you feel that you can't live your life without them. And that is literally the aim of an abuser. Their aim is for you to become so dependent and so reliant that you don't need anybody else. Because, in their eyes, they are the only support system, the only support network that you need. Because their fear is if you have other people in your life that can give you things that maybe they potentially can't, or, they then start giving you advice on things, you then don't need your partner so much as you did, and they can't live with that. So what happens is when you break away from that relationship for good, they're going to throw everything and anything at you that they know is going to hook you in because of the last times that it did. They're going to sit there harassing your phone saying, oh, you're going to change. I'm going to change. They're going to sit there harassing you saying, I love you. Like, please don't do this to me. I'm sorry. And then, in some cases it can be the threats of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You just have to work up the courage to just block them on absolutely everything. Block their family, block their friends, block every single person that has any sort of, like, communication and connection to them, so that that they have no way of getting a hold of you to get back up in here. Because the second they're in here, that's when it all goes wrong. Once you start getting a clear head and you start seeing things for what it is, you have to make sure that you stay in that mindset, because that's how you're going to heal from this person. So for me, do you know what? As bad as it sounds, well, not that it sounds bad, but, like, it shouldn't really be the only thing that helped me stop with communication, but it kind of was, because of just the way he was. Me taking what he put me through to the police, and then there obviously being a case against him, that one really helped me in like pushing past that, just wanting to talk to him, wanting to message him. Because obviously then I knew that if I did that, one, my court case would be thrown out, because they'd be like, well, you're obviously not that traumatized, you obviously don't feel this that way because, you know, you're still texting them. But it also helped me get rid of him, because, you know, he wasn't then going to be stupid enough to start messaging me when I have a court case against him and there's an actual hearing. Like, there's an investigation, because one, you're breaking the conditions, and two, you know, it's just going to make you look even worse. So for me, like, that really helped massively in the whole cutting off connection. Obviously, that's not the only thing. Like, I know that there are people out there that don't always have the confidence, or just don't want to take it to court because they just want to move on in their own way that they know how. They don't want to have to go through the whole police thing, and that's understandable. That's definitely understandable. I feel like the main thing for me, because I'm not really a massive fan of police, yeah, I'm not someone that thinks that, you know, what they do and like how they do their jobs is great, I'll be honest. But that's only because of my own personal experiences, because any time I have gone to them for things, it's never worked in my favour. So, you know, I feel like I have valid reasons for disliking them. But I've actually forgotten where I was going with that point. What was I even saying, why I mentioned police? I said about the court case, didn't I? Oh my god. Do you know what? We're just going to scrap whatever I just said, because I can't remember. But obviously with the whole court case, like, it went on for a very long time, and that sort of like was a way to help me get rid of him pretty much, because he just wasn't going to message me, he wasn't going to put himself in a position to do that. Oh no, that was it. I remember now. For me personally, I feel like the only reason I sort of like worked up the courage to sort of just take it to the police and see how it plans out is because I knew that there were other girls before me that didn't get justice for what they went through with him. And I felt like, you know, if I can be another girl to add to the statistic of just him alone, let alone a girl that's been through that again, but like another girl to come forward and say that he's done this to them, like, not only could I then get justice for myself, but I could also potentially get justice for them if it actually goes somewhere. So that's like the sort of the mindset I had. Like, I kind of wanted to repay back to them in a way. I know that wasn't really my job and it's not my responsibility to do that, but no one deserves to be put through abuse at the end of the day, and no one deserves to have to go through that. So I kind of felt like it was in my, if I could do something, pretty much, it would be to take that further and just get it out there, basically, that he is this guy. But I know that obviously sometimes cutting contact is not possible, because some people in abusive relationships, you know, have children. Or it's a close narcissistic family member that you'll still occasionally have contact with, or you'll bump into. So for that situation, you know, you've just got to put it out there. You've got to put the boundary in place that if they don't respect you, or like things don't change, the consequences that are going to happen to them. So in a case of like, I don't know, people with kids, if the abuse doesn't stop and like they don't then start respecting you even when you're out of the relationship, as bad as it sounds, like, sometimes what needs to happen is you need to say to them, you know, I'm not going to let you see your children if you don't start like respecting me as their mother or their father. So sometimes you have to use everything and anything to basically get like the best outcome for yourself. And at the end of the day, no one deserves to be going through this in the first place anyway. So you have to do at this point what you know is right by you. And if that means being selfish, or if that means, you know, putting yourself